Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy, Nerd Mode On, and welcome to the next episode of Battlefield News, a video series where I'll be talking about changes and/or events within a particular Battlefield title. So without further ado, let's get started. So for today's episode, we're actually going to be taking a look at an update that came out for the community test environment for Battlefield 1. This time around, DICE heavily focused on three main areas: the operations game mode, weapon balancing, and last but certainly not least, we have map balancing. Starting things off, let's talk about everybody's favorite game mode, operations. Now, while the operations game mode has definitely seen a hamper in terms of how many people are able to play and the accessibility of finding servers for this game mode, many players redeem it as one of the saving graces for Battlefield 1. Now, one of the major issues with the operations game mode is that players are not able to use a server browser to instantly find a server that has sufficient player numbers for the type of battle that they are looking for. Now, DICE has recognized this and they've attempted to make some improvements, but of course they're not really making improvements that I feel like many players are looking for. But of course they are trying to continually update the operations game mode and try to make it a little bit easier for players to quickly find servers. Now, with that being said, whenever the player count would drop below 75% of the required player count to get out of the pre-round for operations, the operation state would revert to waiting. Now, as a due result of this action occurring, this affected matchmaking. On the bright side, DICE looks to be making improvements in this area because the desire is to instead only revert to the waiting state if the operation is in the pre-round and the player count drops once again under 75%. Now, moving right along, let's talk a little bit about some weapon balancing. For starters, they fixed low-resolution textures on the show rear iron sight. The development studio has also corrected aiming controller settings for the Bayonet Merci optical when using 1.5 times zoom. Previously, this light machine gun was utilizing the iron sight settings instead of using the optical settings. They have also added blur around the Selbstlader 1906 sniper scope when aiming. And last but certainly not least, they have also fixed an exploit which allowed AT mines to be placed on vehicles. Now, while I was surprised to see that this actually made it into the patch notes, considering to do this exploit it actually was fairly difficult and you could only do it so many times considering that the object that you needed was only scattered around a few flags on some particular maps. However, it does seem that DICE is trying to take an active approach at trying to get away from some of the previous exploits that plagued some of the previous Battlefield titles. Now, with that being said, let's transfer over to some map balancing, considering that DICE is further making improvements to some of the community's favorite maps. For starters, MEN and Argonne Forest have seen extensions to their collision barriers to fix exploits that allowed players to get on top of buildings. Unfortunately, this does pain my soul considering that MEN actually had some really cool exploit spots that you could get to, which would allow you to throw limpet charges at the opposition, usually granting you between 1 and 6 kills. So of course, while this wouldn't happen frequently, this was definitely a neat thing that you could utilize to your benefit. Now, moving right over to Verdun, we actually do get to see quite a bit of improvements done to this map, considering that while it hasn't been necessarily a fan favorite due to some of the limitations that the map provides, of course there has been some improvements done to the map overall. DICE has fixed a few out-of-bounds spawns and operations. They have adjusted the combat area and capture area for the flags and the last sector to improve the balance. Furthermore, players can expect a higher likelihood for more weather variation. And last but certainly not least, they have adjusted the HQ spawns for both teams for Conquest. Now, moving right along, let's talk a little bit about some of the additional changes that didn't really fit specifically into any of those three categories. DICE has fixed the vehicle skin descriptions not showing up in the vehicle customization screen. DICE has fixed an issue where self-repair would activate without input upon entering the driver's seat after leaving that seat mid-repair cycle. In addition, all tank and plane parts will now be fixed automatically upon the vehicle reaching full health. This aims to prevent the confusing situation of having a healthy vehicle with broken parts. This improvement is definitely something that I always thought was really weird about the tanks, considering that you would have broken components, but of course you would have the health at full health. So of course it's definitely neat to see that DICE is making further improvements to balance out some of the indiscrepancies with the vehicles. DICE has resolved an issue where Conquest control bonuses were rewarded in other game modes other than Conquest. DICE has fixed rain sounds playing when it's not raining. They have also fixed an issue where outdoor reverbs were not fully faded in when transitioning from indoor to outdoors. Furthermore, there has been a fix for a bug where rain audio would be heard in bunkers when impaired weather state was set. DICE has also fixed a bug where shells of the BL-9 artillery on Rupture in the Rush game mode would be blocked if fired after the attackers had advanced past the second sector. Now, I'm sure many of you guys are giddy with excitement considering that while Battlefield 1's audio is already great, of course we are seeing further improvements done to this system. Now, if I can interject for just a brief moment and bring you guys back down to earth, in this particular case, let's talk a little bit about the ammo pouches, considering that we're actually seeing an improvement that many players may not have initially expected from this small gadget. The ammo pouch will now speed up grenade resupply if a player stands close to it. This particular improvement will be very beneficial to the cavalry class, considering that they do have the ability to have light anti-tank weapons that are fairly effective at destroying tanks. Moreover, your standard infantry unit will also see these benefits, considering that their ammunition will now resupply a little bit quicker, as well as they will have the ability to resupply their grenades a little bit quicker than they previously were able to do so. But anyway guys, that's really all the information I have for you. Hopefully you found something in the video insightful and or entertaining, but as per usual, I will leave the article linked in the description of the video for your viewing pleasure. But anyway guys, this has been NMO, and I'm going to be signing out guys. Peace!